Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. This week we are talking all about how we as independent filmmakers have structured our business to ease our tax burdens. So we'll be discussing things like...
What are some deductions that you're missing out on?
When's the right time to start your LLC?
And should you be listening to anything we say before consulting a tax professional?
Absolutely not. On that note, I'm Victoria of Victress Finalis Entertainment.
And I'm Chuck of Lower Gentry Studios and Chuck's Media. We're two micro-budget filmmakers attempting to grow to macro-budget levels. Let's talk LLC.
Fantastic. Chuck, what is an LLC?
Limited Liability Company. And I'm very, very adamant about people being informed about taxes because I messed up so many deduction opportunities really early on in my filmmaking journey. And I do want to say, before you go out and purchase anything expensive to make movies or even just take pictures, go talk to a tax professional. I spent $50 to talk to a guy that has been basically filing taxes for 40 years, to meet with him for 30 minutes. And it was one of the best things I've ever spent money on because it saved me so much money. And I wish I would have talked to the guy 5 years ago.
It is really important to talk to a professional, and ideally one in your state or region at the very least,
Correct.
Who will know individually what opportunities there are that exist, maybe in your state or your city or your, country as a whole.
Yeah, it's important. I wouldn't go get tax advice out of somebody outside.
Don't go
country.
to Fiverr for that.
No, that would be a very bad idea. So I just want to kind of share an example that happened to me personally recently when Lower Gentry Studios finished production on our feature film. Mm-hmm. We raised money and we did actually claim income through the business. And that went on my own personal tax return because the way that we set up Lower Gentry Studios was as a partnership.
Yes.
And we had the company in place for years, but we just filed a zero tax return because we didn't know what we were doing.
Fair.
We weren't making any money. And so we're like, well, we don't have to claim any money. And then once we made money, we claimed income. What happened the next year, though, is that we were traveling to film festivals, and we were able to find a lot of deductions. We also upgraded some of our equipment because we started doing live video shoots, and we had a negative income within the business. And what happened, which was kind of miraculous to me, is I was working and getting a W-2 at another company, and I was getting everything ready, and I was going to have to pay in at the end of the year, which I hate doing that.
Yeah.
But then once we filed the business taxes and that was a negative balance, all of a sudden I have a tax return coming to me because even though I'm working full time at another job, this other business that I'm running has had income before, and we lost money that year, and that came off the top of my income. And I wish I had done that years ago.
I am going to throw one thing out there because this one is something that I'm weirdly a stickler about. You did not have a tax return coming. Your tax return happens no matter what. Your tax return is the thing itself.
Yes.
You had a refund coming.
Yes.
The return and the refund are different. I'm sorry.
That's good.
Let's such a jerk. I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
They are different.
I had a refund coming.
There.
But I was going to have to pay in on my return, which I file every year. Every year I file a return, and I hate that time of year. It is absolutely awful. But I was a teacher for years, and that's how my brother and I got started making films, was during the summer times. We had time available, and we bought equipment, and we didn't even realize that we could have been basically losing money and taking that off the top of our income potentially during that time. And I might not have had to pay in as much when I was a teacher, which usually I got a refund as a teacher in Idaho because the tax bracket was so low. But I could have potentially been much, much lower than what I was. And so any of you out there that are just starting your filmmaking journey, please talk to somebody before you buy that, even $1,000 camera, that's not nothing. I'm trying to think of like a Blackmagic Pocket 4K
Yeah, it's like,
now
let's
is like
say
$1,000.
but even if you go for something a little bit nicer and you like fully kit it out with, cage, lenses, tripod, all that jazz, like that's going to be $5,000.
Easy.
So you might as well have that as a business expense as opposed to, I'm just passionate about filmmaking and I want to do this. Just make it official, make it the business. After speaking to a professional, of course, because this is all not to be interpreted as legal nor tax advice.
Let's actually talk about some hypotheticals.
Hypotheticals sounds great.
Awesome. So I have a business.
Okay.
That's actually real and hypothetical. And let's say I decide to create a stock photography account underneath the name of my business.
Yes.
That's interesting that I could basically be taking pictures anywhere and have them for sale.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm traveling somewhere and then I decide to take a day and dedicate that to business purposes, I wonder if I could hypothetically deduct some of my travel.
I think hypothetically, you'd be able to deduct a lot of your travel expenses, some of your lodging expenses, some of your food expenses. If you had to pay entry into any parks or anywhere you were going, a lot of those things sure sound like they could hypothetically be deductions.
Oh, interesting. In that vein, one of my biggest pet peeves on YouTube is trying to find a decent travel vlog about places that I want to go to.
Yeah.
So I think my guess is that there's a lot of people out there that when they are on vacation, they decide to create a YouTube channel, create a business, and then put up some really horrible travel content.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember the name of this couple that I found. I was trying to find some information about, I can't remember where I was going. I think it was part of Vallarta on a trip. And this person was just basically running around pointing her iPhone like every 3 seconds. It was completely different framing and it was nauseating as she was showing everybody the beach and then like panning at 100 miles an hour. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on in this place. I don't understand anything about Puerto Vallarta. This is a horrible documentary. And as I went down my business journey and understanding that like, you might be able to deduct some of this stuff if you have a history of a YouTube channel posting these things. And I think that there's just a lot of travel vloggers, the ones that are very subpar that just enjoy traveling. They probably made a business and every single penny that they spend on that trip is potentially coming off the top of their income.
Probably. Maybe not. Maybe some people just really enjoy doing it for the sake of doing it. But I feel like you could tie a lot of that back to your average influencer on any of your favorite social media networks, right? For example, Coachella was a very big deal that happened recently.
Okay.
There were a lot of influencers at Coachella. Do you think for even 1 minute, most of those influencers could afford to go to Coachella, stay in a 5-star luxury resort just outside Palm Springs, and wear all these designer label outfits for, 3-4 days during the festival? Probably not. There was probably a brand that had a marketing budget that could justify it and could write that off, paying them to go as a marketable or as a marketing expense.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
Because then, if a large business can justify that, then theoretically, any business could technically, hypothetically, justify that as a marketing expense.
Absolutely. I would imagine, hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically, if your brand has some sort of relevance to anything of the goings-on at Coachella.
Yeah. Which, if you are a filmmaker and you are making creative films and you're also doing videography work, there are a lot of different things that you can take into account from a business end. Definitely talk to your tax advisor, but there are so many different things when you're making video. It's not like you're an artist that paints portraits. I mean, then you would be deducting canvas and paints and expenses and
studio time, probably. Maybe some lighting stuff, things like that.
Yeah. But as a video creator, you can get pretty creative.
You get real froggy with some of those options.
Yeah. Like starting your own travel vlog and making people sick to their stomach with your camera work.
Maybe if you're a filmmaker, can somebody do that? Can somebody just make a travel vlog that is really solid cinematography, that does look pretty and does make me understand what this particular locale is like so that I can decide if I want to travel there?
That would be pretty awesome.
That'd be cool. If you're listening right now and you're looking for a new business idea,
we'd love to watch.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, we'd love to watch your channel.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can make some good money on that.
I do think it's important to clarify, though. What we're talking about here are tax deductions, right?
Yes.
So this is not making money, and you can only deduct so much. However, if you have an LLC, either as a partnership like Lower Gentry has, or as a single, therefore, apparently according to the IRS, this is so sad, a disregarded entity because I am the only owner of my LLC, which just feels insulting to be a disregarded entity. Anyway, doesn't matter. Sorry.
That's okay.
I went off on that tangent. Now my brain is trying to reset back to where I was.
Where were we?
The idea being you can take your regular income from any other job, any other W-2 style employment.
Yeah.
And you can use this as a deduction to lower your overall burden, your overall tax burden, I guess. This is not saying this is going to instantly make you rich and you can just go travel around the world and spend limitless amounts of monies, and it's okay if you go into an ungodly amount of debt on your credit card because you'll get it all back later. That's not it.
No.
That's not what this is.
No, it's just kind of pointing out that some of those bad travel vloggers, they might be making a decent amount of money at their day-to-day job, and they decide when they go on a trip to start a business that does travel vlogs. And therefore, if they lose a whole bunch of money, because you don't have to make money when you start a business. It can be negative.
It can be.
But there are games that you can play in a micro budget, as a micro budget filmmaker or as a part-time videographer or part-time filmmaker. Even if you do have a day job, there are advantages that you can take in the U.S. tax code.
Yeah.
So please be mindful of those. Like I said, I was super regretful that I missed out on a lot of opportunities. And when I decided to quit my full-time job and begin freelancing last year, and I met with that tax advisor, it was very edifying. And that's kind of what sent me down the stock video, stock photo rabbit hole. Setting those things up so that when I am out and about doing things, you can deduct travel expenses, gigs, obviously.
Yeah.
But sometimes, asset creation, hypothetically, if you're creating assets and putting them up for sale, even if nobody's buying them, you do have evidence that you have a storefront.
Yeah.
And
this is a business. It does exist.
And if you're going to be going out on a beautiful hike and it's 20 miles from your house, hypothetically, you can take the mileage deduction.
Yeah, 62 cents on the mile right there.
From your house. And I think it's up to 75
Oh,
this
yeah.
year.
I'm quoting don't listen to me. This is another reason you should consult a professional.
Yeah,
My
look it up.
information is so stuck in the taxes I just finished for the last tax year.
Yes. Everything gets updated every year. So check that out. But the stock footage, stock video thing, great. I've even heard stories of people who are friends of friends who hypothetically got access to camera equipment because they review camera equipment and then took said camera equipment when they were on vacation and did a full day time lapse.
Wow.
And therefore there is a full day time lapse, and hypothetically they didn't really have to be around the camera while they were doing that. They could have just turned it on, had enough hard drive space to let it roll.
If it was in a safe enough place that you felt comfortable leaving it.
Yeah, you'd want to be very careful. But,
yeah.
Also if it's like a donated piece of gear, who knows? But
Sorry, somebody stole the camera you just sent me. Canon, do you mind sending me another? Thanks.
Yeah. But there's a lot of different things that you can do. And you don't have to be super wealthy to take advantage of some of the different tax breaks that we have. I wanted to talk about that. Equipment, it was on my list.
Equipment's a big one.
Yeah. What are things that you're that you aren't deducting that you should be. Definitely camera equipment. I missed out so much expensive camera equipment. Could have deducted over the years.
Now,
missed out.
sometimes, not always, again, please consult a professional for this. Sometimes, if you still have the detailed receipts and the ability to prove that you used that gear for your current business, you can go back however many years that it was. Either refile your taxes for that year if you want to, if you feel like it's a big enough expense.
Yeah.
Or you can set it up to have that deduction, like, there's a word for it, and I don't remember what it is now, but basically divide it up into multiple years as opposed to one large deduction in a single year. And if it was only 2 years ago, then you could say, well, forget those first two, but I want to take the $115 deduction for the next 4 years at least.
Oh, depreciation, and that's what you're talking about. Depreciating asset.
Yes.
Okay.
That's not the word I was thinking of, though, so that's making me concerned that I'm misquoting this completely. But
oh, well, hey, I mean...
Again, talk to a professional.
Yeah, but receipts are something that I'm learning how to do, and that's also something that you want to stay on top of if you are making a lot of business expenses.
Yeah.
And great tutorials out there, several of them, as far as just making a Google Sheet to help you keep track of everything. And on top of that, making sure that you have a digital folder with your phone, taking pictures of these receipts. And I know that Android, Google Photos, or Google Camera on Android does a great job of recognizing when something's a document. When you put it underneath your
Thankfully,
phone
Apple
camera, same thing.
Has updated their iOS to acknowledge a lot of this. I think it was... no, time has no meaning. 3 or 4 years ago at this point, they introduced their new scanning feature, which allows you to also extrapolate a lot of data from your images as well, which is really practical.
Yeah, I know that the Google Lens or whatever, the Google Photo app, it'll just scan it and then name it and have all the receipt information.
And it's about time our phones started doing this stuff for us.
But you have to have all that stuff because my tax advisor did tell me if I ever get audited, it's not just about keeping track of, what you purchased. And I don't trust Amazon and B&H Video to B&H Photo Video to keep my invoices on their server. So I always download them and then re-upload them to my Google Drive, which my tax advisor did tell me that the digital receipts work totally fine. But making sure that you take the time to scan all of these documents, maybe once a month, depending on how busy you get, once a week.
I'll be honest with you, though. If you are not the person that is going to build all this out and do all of this out, I do have my phone just auto backs up all of my photos to multiple places because I'm that paranoid person. Okay. But I do organize the receipts into folders so that I just have a big taxes folder, and then I have invoices versus receipts versus other random things. But there is an app, and I'm just going to say the name because I really like the app. I wish the app would sponsor us. That'd be super cool because I just like the app.
Let's get a sponsor.
It's called Expensify.
Okay.
And it does have a free version. It's not as fully featured as their paid versions, obviously, but it is a free version of a software. It is an expense software. You take a photo, it automatically tags it, categorizes it, throws it into the right folder, lets you sort by so you could put a tag for, well, this is the feature film I was working on right now, and that's what this particular thing is for, or this was a nonprofit donation, or this was lunch with clients, and you could still tag it for a different video project that you're working on. Whatever it is, it makes it really easy. It's super fast. I really love Expensify. I also use QuickBooks Online, though. For better or for worse. And I can say that. I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor. I am allowed.
All right.
Not an accountant. Just certified in QuickBooks.
You just know how to beep boop the buttons.
I know how to beep boop the buttons because I worked tech support for a long time.
But you don't know if what you're doing is legal or not.
I don't.
Okay.
50-50 shot. But it also has a similar functionality. Almost any accounting software that you get now, so not even just QuickBooks, whether you're using Xero or you're using... Oh gosh, I don't know. I should know so many names of these, but I don't. But whatever accounting software you're using, a lot of them now have the ability to just scan a receipt and it will upload it. It will tag it. It will keep track of all these things for you. Personally, I would say it's worth the investment to just do it, because if there's even the slightest chance that you might forget a receipt, it's not worth leaving it on yourself, especially when some of these apps are free. It's just not worth it. Just get the stupid app and upload the photos.
Yes, it's super important in case you ever do get audited. And now moving from working and getting a W-2 and starting my freelance career, it's been extremely important for me to keep track of every detailed expense, especially when I have busy months where I'm making a decent amount of money. And this is one thing that I also want to point out to people that are on the fence about maybe they have a full-time job, things are going pretty well with filmmaking, maybe they're getting good at camera operation or they're getting good at location sound, and they're considering going out and working on their own, but they're concerned about healthcare. Which was something that I was very personally concerned about when I decided to start freelancing, but I was so burnt out at my job, it was like, I'll deal with that issue, eventually.
Yeah.
So the October this is in Idaho, this is how I was told it works in Idaho. The October when the healthcare market opened back up, I put that I was self-employed. And what they did, instead of looking at my gross income like they did when I was getting a W-2, as far as qualifying me for healthcare plans, they were able to take my net income as the qualifying rate. And I double checked this. I called somebody that was a health insurance broker, and they did confirm with me. And what I did was I gave him some hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Because when you have your own business, this studio that we're in right now is in my house.
Yeah.
And because we're using it and because I'm using it to produce content, that means that this fraction of my house is deductible from my mortgage.
Which is practically.
Hypothetically, you can deduct a lot of space from your house for home office expenses.
Which is practical, but does have limitations, especially based on your mortgage amount and how much of the space you're using, and if that space is entirely dedicated to work or only partially dedicated to work. So another good plug for it. Talk to a professional.
Yeah, and I was warned by my tax advisor that deducting home office mortgage costs is a little bit of a flag. So there might be a visit from the IRS.
You may be audited.
Which you do want to pay real close attention to all your receipts then, because if they come, and I do pay for this gentleman to file my taxes, and that comes with audit insurance to work. He would be a buffer between me and the IRS. But I was going to talk about healthcare. The net amount when you're self-employed was really important, because when I talked to a health insurance broker, I was able to then state, what if I make X amount of dollars by the end of the year? And he did tell me that, at least in Idaho, and talk to an insurance broker about this if you're concerned about healthcare.
So not a tax professional, an actual insurance broker. This is a separate call.
Yes.
Okay.
But there were plans that were available for a very, very small premium that was surprising to me. And the nice thing about it is that as long as you have your monthly bills figured out and the minimum amount of net profit that you need to have, then if you have a really busy month and you make a whole bunch of money that you didn't foresee coming, that would be a really great time, hypothetically, to spend some of that extra cash on that new camera that you wanted, or that new lens that you wanted. You wanted to,
expand into portraits, and you need that portrait lens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, upgrading equipment. Or maybe you decide that, hey, that travel vlog, since I am a videographer and my YouTube channel is a little bit low on content, maybe I need to talk to my tax professional if I can make a travel vlog and go out of town and spend that money, and then it's coming right off the top of your income.
All hypothetically. All of this is, I'm also realizing what a United States focused episode this is.
Oh, yes.
We maybe could have prefaced that at the start of the episode.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Sorry for everybody in UK, Australia that listens to us. Hopefully you can kind of edify us in comments or send us an email and let us know.
Or laugh about the differences in our healthcare systems. That's always entertaining too.
The healthcare thing. Yeah, that doesn't even.
That was the one that I was like, oh wait, this isn't just U.S. tax code. This is.
Yeah, but for those of you that are not in the United States, quitting your job when you have health insurance is terrifying.
Yeah,
and it was terrifying for me, and I didn't know what was going on. I was just going to not have health insurance because it was super expensive, I thought. But then if you just, do some digging, there are options for you.
There are people you can talk to who are experienced in this. And one thing, and I assume most states have this. I cannot guarantee that. I should have double checked that. But here we have something called the Small Business Development Center. It's part of the Idaho Commerce Department, I think.
Right on.
Ooh, God, I hope that's right.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I know it's the Small Business Development Center, and they have a lot of these resources. They have people you can talk to directly for insurance things. They have people you can talk to about the tax details. They even have like business and marketing professionals to help you get started on the right foot and know kind of what you're doing, and they review business plans with you. They're actually a really valuable resource. I assume if Idaho has this, most states must. I can't guarantee that, but it's a really valuable program and just a cool place to go if you need help. That was where I went when I was starting my first business in college, when I was starting a bakery.
Nice.
Which I definitely did not write off taxes appropriately for that one.
Oops, that's a lot of initial costs too. All the food. All the flour and eggs.
All the food and all the...
Eggs now, especially. Maybe I'll start a baking business just so I can afford to, or at least I can deduct my egg costs.
Yeah, all of a sudden you can have eggs for breakfast again. Congratulations.
Well, maybe I'll just start a YouTube channel where I review eggs since I have all the camera equipment anyway.
There we go. Okay, wow, that was almost a word. Wow. Some deductions that I would like to discuss.
Okay.
If that's okay, if I kind of piggyback on what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Would be of course, it's going to be marketing and promotional stuff for your films and your business. So if you end up going to a film festival, in addition to being able to deduct some of those costs, if you're printing business cards, flyers, and handouts, you have a website built for your movie, anything like that, all of those promotional things are a part of your budget.
Yeah, and you can write that right off the top of any income that you make. Or you just write that off of your zero income, which a lot of filmmakers are living that reality as far as profitability of their films. But,
that is a thing.
Yeah. Is anything else that you'd like to cover on the business end of things?
Those were really the big ones. The other thing that I would suggest as far as starting your business is when you're ready to go file the paperwork, if LegalZoom or whatever you decide you want to file your business paperwork with just looks too expensive, but just going to your Secretary of State's website feels too daunting, there is a middle ground. You can go to your local bank, preferably credit union.
Okay.
Wherever you plan to do your business banking, and talk to them, and they can help walk you through some of the steps of actually filing the paperwork for your business or a DBA or getting your EIN. In some cases, they can even do that for you, at least get the EIN for you if you really just do not feel comfortable doing those things yourself. But they'll at least have a good place for you to start to understand what type of business you should be starting, the implications of it, the best resources for you. Just speak to a financial advisor at your local credit union and or bank. It's usually free. I can't imagine they would charge you for just consulting and sitting down and talking with them. And they are a wealth of knowledge about this sort of thing. So
yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. But before you make that big purchase, it's so worth it to spend the time to talk to some professionals that know what they're doing, because it could save you thousands of dollars.
Literally thousands of dollars. Hypothetically.
All right. Well, shall we succinctly say goodbye?
I think we should hypothetically say goodbye.
Bye.